Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from RicoScores. Y'all know I try to stay away from anything drama or just chaotic, but this will affect how the roster shapes up. So, the Washington Commanders' new kicker that we just signed in free agency just a couple of months ago is apparently being sued. We're going to dive into why he's being sued, the whole situation, when it happened, what he's being accused of what happened. Not going to lie, it sounds like that probably actually is what happened. So now we got to dive into what our potential replacement options are, especially for a kicker right now. And then also the second half of the video is going to be a lot more fun. We're going to dive into how the Washington Commanders are connected to a top veteran free agent edge rusher right now. Should we sign him? Should we not? I'm going to give you reasons as to why on both sides, and then you come up with your own conclusion at the end. I'll also give my opinion at the end as well. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. I have so much stuff that I'm working on. I can't wait to get it to y'all. Monday was like my last day being extremely busy, so hopefully I can start getting back to all of the videos. But who knows, man? I'll probably just end up busy in another random way tomorrow. So just make sure you stay tuned for content. I don't want to make any like serious promises, but just know at minimum a video a day. So I can't wait to dive into these rookie film sessions and things like that. I've already been watching them in my own free time. I can't wait to actually start breaking those down and putting them in video form for you, along with a lot of my other fun ideas that I've been working on the side as well. Like while I'm out and I'm busy, I'm like not able to be home working on videos, I'm still working on video ideas at the very least. So make sure you stay tuned for all of that. And without further ado, man, let's go ahead and dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so breaking news. The Jaguars, well, ex-Jaguars, and now Commanders kicker Brandon McManus is being sued by two women that allege McManus sexually assaulted them, ABC reports. And the Jaguars are also included in this as well. It's the Jaguars and kicker Brandon McManus that are being sued. The two women allege that the incidents occurred during the Jaguars' flight to London last season, and it was a party. We're going to dive into that. McManus allegedly tried to kiss one of them during turbulence and twice grinded against her while she served meals, according to the lawsuit. McManus recruited 3 flight attendants to the party, handing out $100 bills to encourage inappropriate drinking and dancing. Multiple players allegedly broke federal laws. So it's not just a Brandon McManus thing, but of course from the Commander side of things, he's the one that we care the most about. And he's also the headline too, because it sounds like he was like the main one doing it from everything that I'm seeing, but I could be wrong there. But I know from the Commander's point of view of things, I'm not here to dive into what everybody else may have had going on or whatever. We're here to talk about Brandon McManus because, again, I'm here to talk about how this affects our roster. But, of course, I'm not making light of anything that went down, so we got to dive into it. And you already know Josh Harris is like, he found out about this and was more upset than any of us fans could possibly be, because he's been doing everything in his power to kickstart him owning this franchise the best way possible, the most positive way, giving out free beers at like different fan events for absolutely no reason whatsoever, for anything else other than he's just a good dude. Like, I mean, everything that he's done step by step, not only is he trying to improve the field conditions and the training facilities for the players and things like that on the player side, but even on the fan side of things, he's putting in millions of dollars worth of a budget to improve the fan experience at, well, now it's Commanders Field instead of FedEx Field since they're gone. But you get the point. Like, he's going the extra mile to make sure that the fans are happy, the players are happy, his coaching staff, his front office is happy. I know the coaching staff and front office got to be getting big money for us to recruit the guys that we recruited this offseason in both places, front office and coaching staff. So his whole purpose is to make sure everybody's happy so we can do whatever it takes to win a Super Bowl. And just a wrench like this out of absolutely nowhere on a random Monday at the end of May, I know he was like, what? Out of everything I've done correctly thus far, this is the random thing that has like a smirk on my whole, era and regime that I'm trying to set up with the new Commanders. I just bought this team. I'm trying to go. I mean, of course, nobody's ever going to have like a perfect resume, a perfect record, but this was like completely out of nowhere. Of course, Josh Harris doesn't really have anything to deal with this. This guy was signed by Adam Peters, and maybe Dan Quinn has some opinion on it. Maybe our special teams coordinator, Larry Izzo, has something a part of it. But Josh Harris, I mean, he's just pretty much writing the checks. And then he's not even like the only owner. He's not like some of these other owners out there where they like literally own the entire team. Josh Harris just happens to own a bigger percentage than everybody else, but he doesn't even own a large percentage. So again, we can't place the blame on him, but I can see why from his point of view, he is sick to his stomach. Like, what happened now? We were doing so well. We killed it with the hiring of Adam Peters and all of these front office guys. We hired the best coaching staff on paper possible. We killed it in free agency, the number one most signed players in free agency out of the entire NFL. Most people feel like we killed the draft and had one of the best, if not literally the best draft out of any team in the NFL. We have all of this momentum going. Jaden Daniels looks great in OTAs. We have a lot of players already developing a little bit quicker than what we expected. We're hyped, and then out of nowhere, you just have this random piece of negativity that's thrown in there. So McManus, if this is true, this is all on you. So let's dive into it. Apparently, McManus is being accused of trying to kiss one of the women while she was seated during a session of turbulence, and twice grinded up against her while she was serving the flight's 2 meal services per the lawsuit. She also alleged during the first assault she made eye contact with another Jaguars player whom she said looked ashamed of McManus's behavior. So they were witnessing it. I'm shocked from their point of view. They didn't speak up and say something about it. I'm just the type of person, I gotta say something. I'm sorry. And then also the second person alleged that McManus grinded up against her while she was serving the flight's second meal service. Per the lawsuit, she confronted McManus, who smirked and walked away. The lawsuit says that the second woman remained in the aircraft's second story to avoid McManus on the team's flight from London to Jacksonville on October 8th. Also, going to the Washington Post article by Sam Fortier, he said, according to the lawsuit, according to ESPN, the women were flight attendants on the Jaguars charter to London on September 28th before the team played consecutive games overseas. They alleged the flight quickly turned into a party, with McManus and several other players violating the flight attendants' personal spaces and federal laws. The lawsuit claims McManus got other flight attendants to join the revelry and passed out $100 bills while encouraging drinking and inappropriate dancing. The women also, and it's a really long article, but I'm just taking out like some of the most important parts, the parts that y'all probably care about the most. The women said that they experienced mental anguish, anxiety, psychological and emotional distress, embarrassment, and humiliation. And then the lawsuit alleges that the Jaguars committed gross negligence, in ESPN's wording, by failing to properly train McManus, failing to supervise his behavior, and then failing to enforce a zero tolerance policy on him after the fact. So they felt like the Jaguars did terribly beforehand, duringhand, and afterhand as well with the whole situation. So again, they're being brought into it as well. It's not just Brandon McManus. It's a couple of players. Brandon McManus seems like he was the ringleader. That's why he's the headline. And then the Jaguars, the women also feel that the Jaguars did not do anything at any point in the process to help at all. So again, this is a problem that extends even beyond Brandon McManus as well, but just keeping it to how the Commanders were affected. I agree with @Jaden Daniels MVP when he said this. I understand that an investigation does have to be done in this early. However, I can see Brandon McManus being cut by the Commanders soon. Don't see a scenario where the team wants to deal with any sexual allegations of any kind, especially after the troubling past of the franchise, more specifically Dan Snyder and a lot of those guys. Our radio guy, forgot his name, they got fired. It was a lot going on. So just our whole franchise, anything relating to any of those issues, it's not a good look at all. Even though this is a totally different regime, literally the only thing that's the same is where we practice, where we play, our colors, and that's it. Literally everything else is different by this point, but it's still like a certain stigma that comes with that, being attached to that, having that in your history. Also, my dog Rio brings up a great point. Buddy could be completely innocent, and I'd still cut him because I don't want them kind of allegations on this team's jacket anymore. And I'm not gonna lie, that I kind of feel that way. I'm hoping that the Commanders somehow figure out what really happened before they come to like an official decision on what they're gonna do with them. But it's not looking good for Brandon McManus at all. I mean, he might be over with prematurely. We may just go ahead and get rid of him just in case, and then, you know, if everything clears, maybe we sign him again. Who knows? But the Commanders even gave a statement on this. A Commander spokesperson spoke on the allegations against kicker Brandon McManus. Sorry for mispronouncing that so many times. I don't know why that name's so hard for me. I'm terrible with names. Y'all already know this. But they said, quote, earlier today, we were made aware of the civil lawsuit filed on May 24th against Brandon McManus. So this was a couple of days ago. We take allegations of this nature very seriously, and we are looking into the matter. We have been in communication with the league office and Brandon's representation and will reserve further comment at this time. So we'll see how quickly they act on this. Are they going to wait it out and try to see if the justice system does what they need to do, even though the justice system always takes way longer than it should? So I'm not gonna lie, man. Right now, I'm assuming that they will cut him. But if they do, who are some of our best options out there? Well, my first thought immediately, like when I saw the headline, I was like, oh my Lord, we need a kicker. And my first thought was, hey, can we go get that Jake Bates guy out of the UFL? I mean, first of all, with his last name being Bates, does he have any blood ties to John Bates? Is that one of his folks or something like that? But even so, even if he isn't, just in case if you forgot, Jake Bates was the kicker in the UFL, hitting 60-plus yard game winners in consecutive games. He was easily still is currently easily the best kicker in UFL history by far. That guy is serious. I mean, who knows if it will translate to the NFL, even though I feel like if anything can translate from one league to another, it's kicking. If you can kick a field goal 64 yards away in the UFL, why would you not be able to do it in the NFL? But either way, man, I mean, if you remember a moment back all the way on April 7th where he kicked a 62-yard field goal game winner, and then but you got to remember when that happened, the week before that, the game before that, he kicked a 64-yard game winner. So back-to-back weeks of kicking a 60-plus yard game winner is insane. But just a warning, he will not be available until after June 16th when the UFL postseason finally ends. And luckily for us, that's before training camp. So if we do decide to go and get him, he would have plenty of time to get acclimated with the team and everything like that. So that's pretty cool. And just to also let you know, because some of y'all may be thinking, well, what happened to the kicker that we had last year? Well, Joey Sly is already signed to the New England Patriots. He's over there with Antonio Gibson and Jacoby Brissett. They picked up a couple of former Commanders over there. So just to let you know, Joey Sly is not an option. And I felt like he definitely got a little bit more hate than he deserved, because I felt like most of the issues of him missing kicks and things like that was far more a Cameron Cheeseman problem, which is why we cut him before the season even ended, and more so than like Joey Sly. I mean, you saw Tressway struggling to try to get the ball and put it in a place for Joey Sly to be able to kick it correctly, and then when the placeholder is messed up because the long snapper messed up the process, now the kicker is less likely to make the kick. So a lot of Joey Sly hate honestly deserves to go to Cameron Cheeseman. So I wouldn't have minded bringing back Joey Sly if he was a free agent, but he's not. So now, outside of that, I don't really see any dependable kickers available out there, to be honest. I mean, I've been looking. Like, the kicker position is like the definition of the grass ain't always greener on the other side. We complain about our kickers time and time again, then get rid of them, and then we go get a new one, and then we end up missing the old one that we used to have. But, I mean, I know this is not this situation per se, but at the same time, we need to know that if we end up cutting Brandon McManus, there will be a struggle finding a good kicker out there. Our best hope, and really right now, to me, our only hope is Jake Bates at this point, to be completely honest with you. And let's dive into why. Here's an article from The Sporting News from Mike Moridis. I hope. I'm terrible with names. I'm trying my best. I always try to figure out, because I know a lot of people really care about that. So I'm working on trying to get these names down, man. But the article says, as he continues to take the football world by storm in 2024, it comes as no surprise the UFL star and Michigan Panther kicker Jake Bates has drawn interest from NFL teams, including the Detroit Lions. Not only has Bates made 15 of 18 of his field goal attempts this year, he's also nailed a grand total of 6 from 50 plus, and 3 of those have come from 60 or more. That's just this season alone, and this season isn't even done yet. It's only been a few games. He's also nailed a 70-yarder in practice recently, another shining example of Bates' special leg strength. His teammate quarterback Danny Etling recently joked that all the offense has to do is get the ball to the 50-yard line and the Panthers are going to score. And basically the fact that, like, I mean, we get within a certain range, I have faith that my kicker's going to make it. While Bates has the eye of NFL teams, he isn't allowed to even talk to them for now because he's under contract with the UFL, the Panthers. Instead, he has to wait until the end of the season, which comes after the UFL championship game, which is June 16th. Bates recently told Aaron Wilson of ClickTheHouston.com that not being able to speak to teams has actually been a good thing for him because it allows him to focus on the task at hand. He said, quote, "I think it's super important to keep the main thing the main thing." He said, "The main thing is being a Michigan Panther. Luckily, the NFL teams aren't allowed to talk to me. It's a blessing in disguise and not what I need to be worried about at all right now. Obviously, that's the end goal for everybody. The big goal is to win a championship with the Panthers right now. The team is clicking right now, and I need to do my small job that's a part of it. Unquote. And yeah, man, I feel him. I absolutely feel him. But just to let you know, once we are able to talk to him, as soon as he becomes available, we need to be on that. I'm seeing that he's for some reason already been connected to the Lions. For some reason, don't know exactly why. I guess the Lions have already made it known out loud that they're interested in him. And we may need to be ready to outbid the Lions for this guy, because the Commanders have until June 16th to figure out what they're going to do with this Brandon McManus situation and what we're going to do for the kicker. It's a crazy situation because, of course, if you sign Jake Bates, but McManus ends up actually being innocent, that's going to be an ugly situation. But even worse off, if you don't sign Jake Bates and McManus ends up being guilty, which looks like the most likely outcome right now for sure, from my point of view, from everything I've heard and read so far, we would be looking ugly at kicker, man, going into training camp. Real ugly, which is not healthy. Because again, we saw how annoying it was and how detrimental it was to the team having a bad long snapper last year. Imagine how bad it's going to be with a bad random kicker. Just some random kicker we just bring in off the streets. Maybe some random guy that's coming out of college and didn't end up getting drafted or signing as an undrafted free agent. Who knows? But man, it is ugly. Now let's move on to the next topic. The Washington Commanders are apparently linked to Calais Campbell, the edge rusher, most recently known from playing on the Falcons, but most notably from his time with the Jaguars and the Cardinals. Well, also, he made some plays for the Ravens as well. Just to let you know, he played with the Cardinals 2008 to 2016. That's what he's mostly known for. But then the Jacksonville Jaguars was probably when he was in his prime, you could argue, and that was from 2017 to 2019. Then the Ravens 2020 to 2022, and the Falcons most recently last year, 2023. And yes, you heard me right. He was on the Cardinals back in 2008. Yes, he's up there in age. We're going to get to that. So just to let you know, after trading Montez Sweat and Chase Young before the 2023 deadline, and shouts out to Rico's Rag, Mr. Dean Jones here for this specific part that I'm going to read to you real quick, where this all is coming from. They said the Commanders moved swiftly in free agency to fill the void. Dorrance Armstrong Jr., Cleveland Farrell, and Dante Fowler should be able to at least assist from a pass rushing standpoint. There's also hope that KJ Henry can build on a promising rookie campaign with further refinement under Dan Quinn and Joe Wood Jr.'s guidance. Commanders link with veteran edge rusher Calais Campbell. While these moves were welcome, there's no guarantee how they'll turn out. More might be needed to help this unit, with Enzo Flojo from Clutch Sports touting the benefits of a veteran defensive end Calais Campbell coming into the fold for short-term relief. He said, quote, "This is where all of this is coming from. The Commanders should set their sights on bolstering their defensive front by signing veteran defensive end Calais Campbell. Known for his versatility and leadership, Campbell's ability to disrupt opposing offenses would be a game changer for Washington's defense. At 6'8" and over 300 pounds, I mean, yeah, that is a scary presence. That's what he's always been known for. If you didn't even know Calais Campbell by name, you would just see him in games and be like, yo, why is that guy not playing basketball? That guy is huge. Even though, I mean, 300 pounds is a little overweight for basketball, but 6'8" is a great height for basketball. But hey, man, he just preferred football and he was great at it, making all pros and things like that. We'll dive into that soon. But continuing with the quote, his presence on the defensive line is imposing. Of course, 6'8", 300 pounds, I bet it is. Campbell's veteran savvy would also be invaluable to the Commanders. I agree with that. Pairing him with the existing talent on the defensive line would create a formidable front capable of shutting down the run and pressuring the quarterback. His experience and tenacity makes him an ideal fit for the Commanders' aggressive defensive philosophy, and I'm assuming he means Dan Quinn and Joe Wood Jr.'s defensive philosophy, because not the Commanders of old, not the Commanders that we've seen thus far. I mean, I'm assuming that Joe Wood Jr. and Dan Quinn will be aggressive, but you can't say that's the Commanders' aggressive defensive philosophy. That's the Dan Quinn and Joe Wood Jr. aggressive defensive philosophy that they're bringing with them from the Cowboys, to be more specific. But either way, to finish up the quote, in addition, his off-field leadership would be a boom for the locker room, unquote. I don't know if he meant to rhyme that at the end on purpose, but I kind of liked it. Sound a little bit like a bar. But again, if we're talking about accolades, this guy has them. All-Pro back in 2017, first team All-Pro. Then he was second team All-Pro twice, 2014 and 2016. Six-time Pro Bowl, 2014, 2015, and 2017 through 2020. And that was with all the way through the Jaguars. That 2017 through 2020 was Jaguars the whole time he was there. And then also the first season he was with the Ravens. I mean, this guy has been first team, second team, all pro, pro bowler, all over the place. It's not like you can't say he's Arizona Cardinals made, a Jaguars made, a Ravens made. He's made the Pro Bowl on all three of those separate teams. The only time he hasn't made a Pro Bowl on any team that he's been on was with the 1 year that he was with the Falcons last year, and he was playing at 37 years old. So you can't really blame him, which we're going to get there soon when we get to the negatives of it. But either way, if you're taking a look at his Pro Football Focus grades, I mean, if you're going back to his elite days when he was at least an 80 grade or higher, you have 2014, 2015, 2016, where he had a 91.2 grade, 2017 a 90.9, 2018 a 90.9 as well, with a 93.6 run defense grade in 2018 and a 90.6 run defense grade in 2019. I mean, Lord have mercy. And then in 2020 he went down to a 71.9 his first year with Baltimore, and then he bounced right back, 80 overall grade 2021, 77.2 overall grade in 2022, and then his most recent season with the Falcons he had an 80 grade. An 80 with an 80.2 run defense and a 68.5 pass rush. If it weren't for his low tackling grade, he probably would have been way higher. They gave him a 31.9 tackling grade, and that is included in his grade calculations. I feel like, you know, if they take that bad away, if he can tackle better, you know, that guy would probably be somewhere like, I don't know, like mid 80s or something like that. And that's incredible, again, at 37 years old. Going back to Rigo's rag for some interesting points, the edge presence gained 6.5 sacks from 63% of defensive snaps last season with the Falcons last year. Again, just to emphasize, he had an 80 overall grade with the Falcons last year. That's outstanding. That 80 overall grade has him ranked 23rd last year out of the entire NFL over Bryce Huff, Rashawn Gary, Joey Bosa, Danielle Hunter, Odafe Owe of the Baltimore Ravens from his previous team. That has him above Jonathan Grenard from the Vikings, AJ Ebenesa from the Bills, Kyle Van Noy, our Montez Sweat, our Chase Young from last year. Even after Montez Sweat had that fantastic end to his season, after we traded him like the second half of the season, he was actually going pretty stupid. That's higher than Brian Burns. That's higher than Cameron Jordan. That's higher than Shaquille Barrett. Higher than Hassan Reddick. Higher than our own that we know, Preston Smith. Higher than Dorrance Armstrong, who we just hired, who's 49th. Higher than Arden Key from the Tennessee Titans, who I really love coming out of the draft. So that's just to put it into perspective that, hey, man, do not sleep on Calais Campbell. I know he's old. I'm fully aware that he's old, but this guy produced last year. This is kind of like a Bobby Wagner situation. Like, is he going to fall off a cliff suddenly? Is this the year after we sign him that he's finally going to fall off a cliff? Who knows? But he looked pretty good last year in 63% of defensive snaps that he, for the Falcons that he played in. And then going back to Rigo's rag, it's surprising to see him still on the market, but this has a lot to do with his age and the increased chances of falling off of the proverbial cliff performance-wise, which I just gave y'all. Like, I mean, Bobby Wagner, I believe, last year had the most tackles in a season out of his entire career. And I mean, at his age, you kind of want to assume that he will fall off a cliff, but I don't think he will. I mean, just based off of last season's performance, I got to give him the benefit of the doubt going into this season. And you may be able to do the same thing with Calais Campbell. Continuing with Rigo's rag, he'll be 38 years old when competitive action begins once again. I want to emphasize that he will be 38 once the regular season starts. I just want you to know that. Campbell's got plenty of tread on his tires, which is putting teams off from taking the plunge despite his superb resume. Again, I want to emphasize he was just great last year. Better than anybody we had on roster last year. Better than anybody we have on our roster now last year. That's including Dorrance Armstrong, who we just signed from the Cowboys. Cleveland Farrell and Dante Fowler. He had higher grades than all of those guys last year in 2023, but granted, all of those guys are younger. Who knows, again, if Calais Campbell will fall off a cliff all of a sudden going into 2024. He didn't last year. Who knows right now, though? Continuing with Rigo's rag, if he does plan on suiting up somewhere again, the player might want to wait around for a contender to come call in rather than an organization and transition like the Commanders. And that's one big point right there that I do want to point out. I want to emphasize that I feel like if I'm Calais Campbell, if I'm his agent, if I'm him, even if I'm a close friend or a family member, I'm like, you're 38, dog. You need to go somewhere like the Patriots or the Texans or one of these teams that looks like a contender, the 49ers after they lost Chase Young. I mean, somewhere that looks like they're going to win right now. Now, granted, the Commanders' future looks very bright. I personally feel like the Commanders will eventually win a Super Bowl sometime. I'm not saying like this year, next year, maybe the year after that, but the way that we're building things top to bottom, front office, ownership, coaching staff, scouts, everything possible, and the way that we're drafting and the way that we're handling free agency right now with Adam Peters at the wheel, I definitely feel like we're going to be Super Bowl contenders sooner rather than later. But at the same time, that's not 2024. And if it's not going to be 2024, that's assuming that if you were to go to the Commanders, your best shot at the Super Bowl is maybe when you're 39 years old. It just doesn't make too much sense there. Also, just like why we haven't gone to go get a Justin Simmons at safety or David Bakhtiari at left tackle yet, I don't think we'll sign anybody at edge rusher anytime soon either. I feel like even if we do, which I doubt just in general, I'm very sure that it won't happen until we at least get well into training camp long enough to see if we actually need those guys at those positions for real. Like as of today, I feel like we probably do. If I were them, I would go ahead and get like a David Bakhtiari at left tackle. I would just go ahead and pull the trigger now. Especially left tackle versus like safety and edge rusher like us being connected to Calais Campbell, which we're talking about right now. But I understand why Adam Peters will want to make sure and wait before they jump to gun. I understand. That's not me. I would go ahead and get at least David Bakhtiari right now today, but I fully understand why they don't want to jump the gun too early. Because picture it. What if in a best case scenario, this is a great problem to have though, the edge rushers that we signed and Brandon Coleman at left tackle actually end up being great soon, like ready week 1 going out there balling out. Like what if Dorrance Armstrong takes on his expanded role, going from being a backup on the Cowboys to a starter with the Commanders and makes the most of it? It shows that he should have been starting somewhere a long time ago. What if Brandon Coleman now being able to actually play left tackle the entire time and develop specifically for that instead of getting Samuel Cosme? And like, I mean, this is going to be his first time being like a true left tackle going into a season since 2022. 2023, remember, TCU had him playing at guard. It was a little ugly. Then they tried to throw him back at tackle and he just never fully recovered. He didn't really look like his 2022 self because they had him bouncing all around. Now, what if that guy, again, going into a season like he did in 2022, already knowing I'm going to be a left tackle and that's it, he just comes out and balls out and that same assurance that I'm going to be a left tackle and that's it, then that would be a weird situation where we brought in veterans to start. You're signing, if you sign Justin Simmons at safety, David Bakhtiari at left tackle, or Calais Campbell at edge rusher, they're either starting or they're playing in a heavy rotation. You're not just signing them to sit around. You're bringing them in here because you feel like the young guys aren't prepared yet. But at the same time, if our young guys are actually ready right now we just wasted money basically. I mean, you can never have too many good players, but at the same time, which takes me to my next point about why we will not sign Calais Campbell yet, is because just like the safety room and the tackle room with our young edge rushers that we're trying to throw out there this season right now, again, Dorrance Armstrong, Cleveland Farrell, and KJ Henry, bringing in a veteran will stifle their development. The sooner we get these young guys out there to learn on the job and play meaningful snaps, the sooner they will be ready. Point blank period. You saw how much Quan Martin developed in such a short time once he finally was thrown out there to the Wolves. A lot of people felt like he may not be ready, and he showed you that he was more than ready. He had an up and down preseason, I would say an inconsistent preseason, but that was preseason. I never doubted Quan Martin at any point. I'm like, it's just preseason, man. I know this guy's talent. I know his tape. Just let him play a lot of snaps, throw him out there more often instead of just benching him like they did the first few games, and watch what happens. Watch what happens when he actually goes out there and plays consistently. What's going to happen to his development. And you saw it. He developed quickly. He ascended all of a sudden. Now they're comfortable with him being a starting safety for this defense already going into year 2. And I know there is a balance to it. It's an ugly gray area, because you still want to avoid forcing players into ugly situations, which would eventually like lead them to develop some bad habits by trying to cheat the process and all of that to try to do whatever they can to step up to the plate as soon as possible, even when they're not ready. But at the same time, there is a thing to just throwing the young pups out there to see if they sink or swim, point blank period, and then be happy with the few that stepped up in the heat of the moments and developed right on the fly on the job. And then I know it, again, it's a gray area, but the guys that don't, you figure out and decide whether if you feel like they are never meant to be good, or maybe you throw them out there to the wolves, it didn't work out, maybe they need to be demoted temporarily for slower development. Who knows? But I say you go ahead and throw those young guys out there. Bringing in, my main point is that we may not sign Calais Campbell because you don't want to get in Dorrance Armstrong, Cleveland Farrell's, and KJ Henry's way, just in case, like with their development, just in case that they may actually have some potential line dormant in there that would only come out, or at the very least come out way sooner, if they get starting level minutes immediately. I mean, maybe we will be worse off week 1, but hopefully we'll be better off long term because of it. You sign Calais Campbell as an edge rusher, that's because you want immediate winning production and talent out there right now. But you never know. Dorrance Armstrong could go out there. You literally never know. Dorrance Armstrong and KJ Henry could be like a top half of the league edge rusher duo, and we just would never know because we threw Calais Campbell out there immediately, and he's taking up a lot of their snaps. So KJ Henry never really gets a chance to get that momentum going, gain that confidence, and develop on the fly for everybody to see, for him to go out there and be a true starting edge rusher that he could potentially be. Who knows? I may not be necessarily the biggest KJ Henry fan, but again, my main point is you never know until we at least try. Let's see if he can. Maybe wait until the preseason, or maybe at some point in training camp, once we've actually put the pads on, we have 100% full contact, and we really see how good these guys are. Then maybe after you're like, all right, these guys are just not ready yet, then maybe you go and get a Calais Campbell. But do I believe we'll sign Calais Campbell anytime soon? Highly doubt it. I think it's pretty much just a flat out no. The only scenario where we get him is, again, if we go sometime middle of training camp, we see that this edge rusher group is not cutting it. Same thing with left tackle. Brandon Coleman isn't ready. Cornelius Lucas is not a true starting left tackle going into a regular season. He's a good backup, but like a true starting left tackle, not sure about that. If the safety group love the talent, I feel like the safety group is arguably one of our most talented groups on the entire team, but there's also a lack of experience throughout that safety group. So if that safety group goes out there and they look inexperienced, we're seeing inconsistencies in communication and veteran leadership and things like that, then I can see us going to get a Justin Simmons. But I think we'll have to wait and see. I don't think it would happen anytime soon. The coaching staff and Adam Peters and those guys need to see and make sure with their own eyes that these guys are not ready before we pull the trigger. I'm assuming that's what they're doing. But again, me as a Rico Street Scores, I'll sign David Bakhtiari today. And I love this safety group, but what could it hurt? I mean, again, when you can stifle the development of like a Jeremy Chin or Quan Martin, so I doubt they do it. But hey, man, Justin Simmons, still elite safety out there, but at the same time, we're not Super Bowl or bust right now, so it may not make sense there. The David Bakhtiari one is the only one I'm like, go ahead and get him now. I mean, I love Brandon Coleman. I'm very excited about his potential. I think he has Pro Bowl left tackle potential with his elite athleticism and ceiling. But I don't want to play around with Jaden Daniels' blind side right now, man. We just drafted a quarterback second overall. The safety group, they can figure it out. Those young pups can go out there, sink or swim, whatever. I think they can make something work. But, and then the edge rusher wise, I think we can, even if the edge rushers aren't that great individually, I feel like Dan Quinn and Joe Wood Jr. can do a great job of scheming up pressure themselves. So we're always going to find a way around that. There's nothing you can work around with a bad left tackle on your franchise second overall quarterback and Jaden Daniels' blind side. So that's the one. If I had to sign one free agent, it would be a David Bakhtiari type of guy. It definitely wouldn't be a Calais Campbell, but I wouldn't be surprised if we some point late July, mid-August, and they're just like, yeah, this isn't cutting it. Let's go get a Calais Campbell. But again, even from his point of view, like I brought up, would he be willing to go and sign with a rebuild that we have going on? I think this will be an expedited rebuild. I think we're going to turn this around way quicker than most people think we will, but at the same time, it's still a rebuild nonetheless. I don't see Calais Campbell looking at our roster, looking at how new everything is and being like, yeah, I want to go be a part of that this upcoming season while I'm 38 years old. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in the video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for all of the content. Again, I'm keeping y'all updated on everything. Now, this Commanders regime, I love a lot of things about this regime. I really do. I feel like we've improved in every way possible, going from the Rivera era to this Dan Quinn and Adam Peters era. But The one slightly negative, I'm not complaining at all. I'll take this any day of the week, but they are far more secretive with their practices. We're only getting like one OTA's practice, media access, like out of every week of practice that they're doing right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if that continues all the way to training camp as well. So I want to keep y'all updated on what's going on. I'm gonna try my best to update y'all on whatever I'm hearing from the guys that do have access and things like that. So stay tuned. But if you're wondering why I'm not giving y'all updates on all of these OTA practices that are going down, the Commanders are literally blocking it off from the rest of the world. But like I've talked about in another video, that may be a good thing. I prefer for us to not to know and other teams not to know as well than for everybody to know what we got going on. I'm not gonna lie, especially when we're starting to get to like the strategic things, X's and O's, game planning and nuance. So make sure y'all stay tuned. I'm gonna keep y'all updated on everything that I can. Any Commanders news. I'm working on film sessions for the rookie prospects. I have a lot of interesting ideas as well. But most importantly, do not leave this video without leaving a like, and do not leave this video without letting me know how you feel about the kicker situation. Do you feel like we should just go ahead and cut Buddy immediately? And do you want to go get Jake Bates, or do you have another kicker in mind? Also, with the Calais Campbell situation, should we go ahead and sign him now, or should we sign him later, or should we not sign him at all? Let me know how you feel about all of that. And of course, I really appreciate y'all. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.